Hey everybody, welcome back to another video of United Martial Concepts. This is continuing the ONE series. Tonight, in this video, we're going to be going over the N, kind of breaking that down and how we look at it. So N stands for nullify or nullification. Obviously, many different ways you can nullify something or someone. How you nullify something is completely up to you. How far you go with it, also up to you. So this is kind of giving you an idea of how we look at nullification and all the different ways we can accomplish this, whether it's with pain, without pain, with even touching somebody or without. So let's dive into it. Number one is vocalization, using your voice. You can nullify someone a lot of times by using your voice. For those of you that have studied traditional karate or taekwondo, you learned to ki. You learned how to express your strength through your voice. When you punch, when you block, when you kick, whatever it is, you give that yell, comes from the diaphragm. Now, the way traditional karate and taekwondo teaches this is that it's an expression of power that allows you to have more power in your striking. So they're linking your striking with your breath, which all martial arts do to some degree. Wing Chun does this consistently. You're supposed to exhale when you strike. So the ki is both physiological and psychological. It does have a psychological effect when you scream, or yell, I should say, at your opponent. This is a concept that has been around for thousands of years. War cries, armies that are facing off against each other, and they yell at each other. Armies that have drums and they have a consistent drum beat, and they're trying to use an intimidation factor or fear factor for the other army. So expressions of power have been used for a long time, and this is one of those ways you can do that. Another way you can use your voice for this, one of the examples I use is, let's say you come out of work, you're walking in the parking lot, and you see, let's say you see a man walking kind of shady behind a woman, and you think there's something kind of hinky about that situation, and you think that guy might be up to no good. So you're too far away to physically do anything about it, and if you started running, you'd probably scare him off, which is okay, but you want to let him know that you see him, you want him to know you're there, and you also want her to know you're there. So you yell out, "Hey, what are you doing?" Or, "Hey, who are you?" Or maybe you don't yell at him. Maybe you yell at the woman. "Hey, where are you going? How's your night going? How was work?" Whatever. By you engaging your voice in that situation, the guy walking behind the woman, if he did have any malicious intent whatsoever, he now recognizes he has an audience. And 9 times out of 10, the situation does not go down the way the would-be attacker wants it to, because he wants to be alone with the victim, or the potential victim. So that's one good way to nullify someone with your voice. I used to do this a lot in security. Go to break up a fight, or a fight that was about to happen. I'd be standing between two people, and instead of yelling at people, instead of accusing anyone of anything, I just talked to them, and I would ask them questions. And those of you who know me decently well at all know that I love questions. Questions are my favorite part of dealing in dialogue. So when I ask questions to people, I would ask them questions that have nothing to do with the situation whatsoever. I didn't ask him, "Hey, what'd that guy do to make you angry?" Or, "Why are you so angry? Why do you want to fight?" I'm asking questions like, "Hey man, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?" Or, "How was work?" Or, "Man, those are nice shoes. Where'd you get them?" By asking questions that are off topic, they put people in a different mindset. You have to think differently to answer that question. So as angry as the guys were, when I ask them a question like that, they know they're not angry at me. They don't have any issue with me. And when I ask them this question, they, just by human nature, they want to answer the question. So now obviously there were some guys that were so angry they didn't want to talk, and that's okay. You don't have to get an answer or a response to the question to still make someone think. And this goes along with anything you're talking about, whether you're protecting someone, or you're talking about work, you're talking about school or faith or whatever the topic of conversation is. When you ask questions, you force people to think. And that's where you get into nullification with vocalization. Me personally, I like to use questions, but you can do it however you want. Ultimately, in the concepts of one, the one is you. How you look at things, how you were raised, how you believe what you believe, and why. And so you're looking at life through your own lenses. You're looking at life from your experiences and from your situations that you've dealt with. And so you either have a positive outlook or you have a negative outlook. And so the one is about you, concepts of you. Who are you? How do you deal with things? And why do you do it the way you do it? Now, there is an obvious other aspect to this. You've seen the logo. There is an obvious cross in it. That logo is multifaceted. Primarily, it projects my faith. I am a devout Christian, as you know, if you've watched my videos. And I want to profess the love of Jesus Christ to everybody I come in contact with. Now, that does not mean that I'm trying to shove religion down your throat. If you're not a religious individual, that's okay. I love you just like I love everybody else. But the idea is there are people out there who do want to have that conversation. There are people out there who, even if they disagree with me, they want to have the conversation, at least if for no other reason than to share their point of view, which is perfectly fine. So for me, excuse me, dealing with the concepts of one, the one for me is Christ. He's where I draw my strength. He is my refuge. He's where I turn when I have issues, and he's also the one that I give thanks to for what I have. But ultimately, when you're looking at the concepts of one, you can look at it from a faith standpoint. You can look at it from a martial arts standpoint, however you choose to look at it. But ultimately, the one is you, how you look at life. And so how you deal with these things is completely up to you. All right, second in nullification is angles, taking angles. So when you're in a physical confrontation and someone steps into you, whether to strike or grab or whatever they're doing, you take an angle. Something as simple as stepping on a certain angle, 45-degree angle, a 180, a 90, whatever it is, can make somebody's, what I call, make their GPS reroute. So in Kung Fu, we call it giving a false center. You have your center line that goes down the center of your body. Someone attacks you. 9 times out of 10, they're trying to attack your center line. So when they attack and you take an angle, that center is no longer there. That target is no longer there. It gives them a false center. But if you notice, if you try to punch at somebody or grab somebody with all of your energy and they move before you get there, you don't stop and redirect to where they are. You actually finish the movement out to where they were, and you put yourself in a vulnerable position. So this is one way to nullify somebody, using angles. Number 3 is changing lines. When we're looking at it from a Kung Fu perspective, the body's broken down into 3 sections. So you have high line, middle line, and low line. High line is from the nipples up. Middle line is from the nipples to the pubic bone, where the pelvis comes together in the front. And then low line is everything below the pubic bone. So Wing Chun specifically, the hands are dedicated to the top 2, to high line and midline. The feet are dedicated to the low line. So obviously you can put your feet in the middle line and the high line if you choose to, but this is how it was broken down initially. So by changing lines, if someone attacks you on the high line and you respond with the middle line or the low line, that's going to, again, make their GPS reroute, but it's also going to give them an immediate response as to what they should not do. They shouldn't attack you again. They probably shouldn't have attacked you in the first place. But this is one aspect of nullifying, and also, you can look at this as engaging as well, obviously. But when you change lines like that, you put somebody in a position where they have to think about their next move, and that thinking makes them hesitate. Hesitation equals nullification a lot of times. Next, we have disabling. disabling can be looked at from a few different angles. We can disable someone by breaking a bone, by dislocating a joint, by striking the throat, or dealing with where the airway is. We can deal with this a lot of different ways. From a nullification standpoint, disabling can be anything from, again, vocalization can disable somebody, but also if somebody's hands are on you or someone you love and you intervene, when you put their body in a position where they cannot harm you or themselves or anybody else, you have disabled them. Now, whether you use pain or not is up to you. Whether you break something, you throw them, you do whatever, that's up to you. But essentially, you've disabled them from doing what they want to do. Next is distraction. This is pretty self-explanatory, I would assume. Anything can be a distraction. I like to categorize it in three aspects: movement, sound, and pain or feeling. So it doesn't have to be pain, but anything they can feel. The eye is attracted to movement. As a matter of fact, right now, sometimes I have trouble staying looking at the camera because when I'm moving my hands when I talk, my hand comes into the frame and my eyes want to look down where my hand is. So your eyes are attracted to movement. If somebody's focused on you and they see something out of the corner of their eye, their natural instinct is to turn their head or glance that direction for a second. They're distracted. Now, it may just be for a second, but they are distracted. Next is sound. If you're dealing with something, doesn't have to be a fight, but if you say you're in a topic of conversation or a heated debate or an argument, or you're just sharing opinions with a friend of yours and you hear sirens, you hear a woman scream, you hear a baby cry, whatever it is, you're going to focus on that sound for a second. You might focus on it for 2 or 3 seconds, whatever, but you're going to focus on that for a certain amount of time, which is also a distraction. Pain and feeling. I learned something a long time ago, this phrase, pain demands attention. When you put somebody in pain, they are forced to attend to that pain. They're forced to focus on it. The body goes with pain. So naturally, if I'm pushing, say, downward with some pain, the body's going to go down. If I'm pushing up, it's going to come up. So this is distracting them from their goal. If their goal is to harm me or to harm somebody I'm with, and I put this person in pain, they have to forfeit their goal, at least for the amount of time it takes them to get out of pain. So they're focused on that pain, which is distracting them from doing what they wanted to do in the first place. This can also go into just general feeling. It doesn't have to be pain. I'm a thumper. Like when I was in security, I used to thump people. I had a guy, a regular at one of the bars I was head of security at, who he's a buddy of mine. He was a regular, never really bothered anybody. But he got a little bit too drunk one night and he was flirting with these girls, or what he thought was flirting. They thought he was creepy. They came to me and they asked me, "Hey man, can you keep him away from us? He's creeping us out." So I go try to talk to him, and I'm telling him, "Hey man, look, back off these girls, go mingle somewhere else, find somebody else to talk to." And he's like, "Oh, come on, man, don't block me," and this and that and the other. I was like, "Look, I'm not trying to block you. I'm telling you what they told me. They think you're a little creepy, and I don't want this situation to get any worse than it is in their minds. So do me a favor, back off." He's like, "Yeah, okay." Well, he didn't. He kept going back. So finally I told him, I said, "Look, man, if you go back to this table full of women, I'm going to thump you in your head, and you're not going to like it." And he thought I was messing with him. And he said, "You're going to thump me?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to thump you." And he's like, "Well, do what you got to do, whatever. I'm talking to these girls." He turns his back on me to keep talking to these girls. Well, of course, the girls look at me like help. So I reached up, thumped him in the back of the head right behind his ear. And he turned around with a look on his face, and it was kind of a mixture of pain and why would you do that? But it immediately got his attention. As intoxicated as he was, those of you who've dealt with drunk people before, you know how difficult it can be to deal with a drunk individual. But that situation, it was so foreign, it was off the wall. He wasn't expecting to be thumped. That's not something people expect. You don't expect to be thumped by somebody. It worked. It distracted him. It got him focused on me, and we were able to deal with it, and I got him away from those girls. I'm not recommending that's what you do in a situation. I'm just telling you what I did at the time. Of course, that was roughly 20 years ago. I've changed a little bit since then, but I still like to thump from time to time. So, distracting somebody can be done multiple ways. Last thing in the end is trapping. This is a Wing Chun concept. It's also from praying mantis, Tai Chi, Bagua, Xing Yi all have trapping in them as well. But when you're looking at trapping, you're simply putting the opponent's arms in a position where they can't use them, at least for a short amount of time. So you have single hand traps, you have double hand traps, you have multiple types of traps that you can put somebody in that are pain free. They won't humiliate somebody, they won't put somebody in a really bad position. Now they put them in a disadvantaged position so that if you respond with offense, you have the ability to do so, and you have the opening to do so. But trapping is a great way to nullify somebody without putting them in pain, without humiliating them, without knocking them out or whatever, if you don't desire to do that at the time. So these are the elements of the in or nullify. The next video, we're going to go over the E, the last section, and we're going to go through engage and break that down. All of those are pretty obvious, I think, but we're going to go through them anyway. So last video, I told you that I wrote a book on the concepts of one system. Should be out in a couple of months. I did mention that I would let you know here on YouTube ahead of time before it comes out, once I know when it's coming out. We also have an Instagram page as well, Master Gaul UMC. So if you're on Instagram, feel free to follow us. I will also let you know on Instagram about the book when it's coming out. So I will post things on our Facebook page. I'll post things on our Instagram page, and I'll also post things here. So keep in touch, like and subscribe, share with your friends, and as always, if you're in the Nashville area, we'd love to have you come out and check us out, see what we're all about. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great night. God bless.